What's up, everybody? Brett Okamoto from ESPN, and how about this? A little breaking news on a Wednesday. So we dragged DC off the golf course, and luckily for us, Chael Sonnen, I think, lives, eats, and sleeps in his podcast studio, so he was already in there. We are here to talk about Jon Jones. He is no longer fighting at UFC 295. Neither is Stipe Miocic. Instead, it will be Sergei Pavlovich and Tom Aspinall for an interim title. Jon Jones out with a pec injury. Sounds like he's going to be out for at least 8 months. That is per Dana White. And per our own Mark Raimondi, he has sources say that the UFC intends, or at least hopes, to rebook that fight at some point in 2024. So, DC, the floor is yours. You can take this wherever you want to go. What is your reaction to this news?
Surprising, because the fight's not happening, but not, at times it can be hard to keep these fights together. I think most surprising to me, and I would think that Chael would agree, is that they intend to rebook the fight. Why are they doing an interim title fight? My whole thought is this. I don't think that Stipe has 8 months to wait. I thought that he was right around the time that he has to get this fight done right now, or the times will pass him by. I don't know that he has 8 months to wait for Jon Jones to get healthy, and that's a problem. That's a real problem.
Chael, your initial reaction to it.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was very disappointed. This is a little bit of a unique spot, guys. I don't know how much you've been on the interwebs, but Jon happened to be filming the workout. The very workout where this happened, if I was to set the stage for you, looked like a wrestling workout. The opponent was a very big guy. Jon was in a little bit of a bad position. He went to lift. Generally, you want to get your hips under you, kind of stand up, and Jon understands that about wrestling, but I think maybe he took the size for granted, used his arms a little much, and it looked as though he tore his pec muscle. That's as close, I think, at least for a brief understanding. I was disappointed. Look, I think that Sergei Pavlovich is the right guy. I think Aspinall absolutely deserves this. He's done a great job of laying out a roadmap, putting himself in this position, not to mention Aspinall is the only guy who has very publicly shown a willingness and a courage to fight with Pavlovich. Don't forget, Pavlovich has shut in the last 6 guys off, all in the very first round. It's a hard guy to find a match for. I do agree with DC. If Yuri Prochazka got 1 week before he had to surrender, Jamal Hill got 2.5 weeks before he had to surrender. If it's 8 months down the line, I'm not sure we're doing an interim title here. This sounds like the championship match to me.
You know what's
I have a theory.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Brett.
Real quick, and then you can speak on what I say, DC, or it sounded like you have a thought. But I have a theory, and I would be interested to get your guys' thoughts on this. DC, you brought it up right from the beginning. Why are they going to rebook this fight? Why are they already saying? Why is we already hearing from Mark Raimondi that they have an interest in rebooking this fight? I think that they know that this is Jon Jones's last fight. That's what I think. I think that he has told them in some form or fashion that this is his last fight, and that you want the last fight of Jon Jones to be against Stipe Miocic, because otherwise, why put this off? Why not have Stipe Miocic fight one of those other guys? Like I just feel like maybe they have an inclination. This is going to be our last run with Jon. So let's make it the most sellable fight.
I got a bit of a different approach. Before we went on air, guys, we were talking about Tammy Lynn Stitch, better known as Sunny to all you WWE fans out there. Chael had a great story. Brett acted interested, not interested. I was interested, so I took note of what the champ was saying. Here's the deal. I believe that with Jon Jones, if it is his last fight, Chael P., Uncle Chael, I wish you had your glasses on, I would believe that you squash him. If you're the UFC and you know that this is it, I'm using it in wrestling terms. You can't guarantee that it's a squash, but you put him in there with one of those guys that's going to still be here. I'm talking Pavlovich. I'm talking Aspinall. I'm talking one of the guys that is going to stick around. Because if you put him in there with Stipe and he beats Stipe or he loses to Stipe, at that point, Stipe will be 42 years old. How much longer do you have Stipe? How much tread on the tire is left of Miocic? But if you put it on one of those young, hungry bulls that are fighting for that interim championship, now you got a guy that not only beat Jon Jones, he gets the spotlight alongside Jon Jones. And if he wins, you got a guy that's ready-made to carry the torch into the next era. And Brett, that right there is why you should pay attention to when Chael's trying to talk to you about WWE stuff, because then you would understand the business. You don't get the business, Brett. Chael, please school him.
Hey, can I just jump in on this one thing, Brett? I will share this to what DC's saying. I think the world is going to look very different when that fight's over. There's a number of scenarios. Tom Aspinall's got a whole country behind him. I mean, Michael Bisping is putting his name and vouching for this guy. But if Sergei Pavlovich is to treat Tom, just by example, if he has to do to Tom what he's done to the last 6 guys, if he shuts Tom off in the first round, and now he's got 7 first-round stoppages, I do think that the power shift in terms of public perception is going to greatly sway behind the new face and our new young Russian champion if we get to that point. And that very much could change the decision-making of Dana White and Hunter Campbell as they do look for Jon's next booking. I am very light on the idea that we ever see Stipe versus Jon Jones, if in fact we have to wait at least 8 months.
You know what's crazy, Brett? It's like, if Jon doesn't want to fight those guys, I don't blame him. I don't blame him to say, I'm mid-30s now, and I got to fight these young dudes. Because guess what, guys? It would be the exact opposite of what Jon was doing. We all had to fight him as a super young guy, as we were all in our mid-30s, starting to head to our late 30s, and you know how difficult that proved to be for all of us. That would be him doing the exact same thing. I just believe that he's a little smarter than the rest of us because he had that belt for so long. We were trying to chase down the championship. There is nothing to gain by him fighting these young guys, so I would insist that it's Stipe Miocic if I am Jon Jones.
Okay, all right. So it's a little bit of what I said then. Then maybe they think that they can only get one more fight. But to your point, DC, maybe it's because it's the only fight Jon will take now. And Chael already beat me to it. I was going to ask you guys. So Chael does not think that we see this fight, at least if we have to wait a little bit of time, which it sounds like we do because he needs to recover from that injury. DC, do we ever see the fight? Stipe versus Jon Jones?
I think if, and again, this is me, and I might come off as coward here. I think if he's smart, that's the fight that he insists he has. Because again, 42 years old is what Stipe would be by the time that he fought. Chael, I don't know how old you were when you fought the last fight against Tito or Fedor, but at 41, I felt 41. So for as great as Stipe is, I don't know how he could manage that fight with a guy in Jon Jones that's still in his 30s.
And guys, one thing that we must accept in this sport, we are going to fiercely adhere to whatever rules we make up on the spot. But if history is any trajectory, if you have an interim champion, when you have the return of the undisputed champion, they fight every single time. You do not have an interim champion sitting over here, and then you have the undisputed champion against a different opponent who's now been out 3 years. That's just not the way it's done. If Jon is to come back, whether it's Tom or Sergei, history says they must fight. I think either they will or it is retirement.
Yeah, that is a really good point. Okay, final thing real quick, and this is going to be a tough one, guys, but to this point in their careers, who has impressed you more, Pavlovich or Aspinall? DC, go first.
Pavlovich. Honestly, I think that one for me isn't that hard because I remember training with Sergei way back in the day, and he wasn't this. He has grown up. This is a guy that made his UFC debut and got outclassed by Alistair Overeem. He has now knocked out 6 dudes in a row. But what's most important to me about Sergei is that he's knocked out guys like Curtis Blades, who promised to wrestle him. He's knocked out Derek Lewis, who was the greatest knockout artist in UFC history. He has knocked out some of the best punchers. He's also knocked out wrestlers. So whereas before we could talk about guys like Conor, the moment he gets a wrestler, he's going to struggle. Nope. We've seen Sergei in there with wrestlers. He has shown an ability to fight all styles. So I've been impressed more with Sergei, even though Michael Bisping acts as though Tom Aspinall is the next coming of freaking Jose Aldo and Alexander Volkanovski combined. But I say Sergei.
And I'm going with Tom, and I'll tell you why, though. I like the way that he's managed his career. I think as far as skills, I think both of their resumes are impressive, but I do see DC's point, particularly what Pavlovich has done of late. Look, Pavlovich was announced as the backup fighter, and nobody knew it. That's nobody's fault but him. The backup fighter takes on Jones if Stipe gets hurt, or takes on Stipe if Jones gets hurt. He has mismanaged his career to the point that he couldn't even demand what was already put out there for him. If I would have been in that spot and Jones pulls out, you better believe I'm going to the Garden. I'm taking on Stipe as planned. He did such a bad job. He let a dude from England coming off an injury come in and scoop the fight and be 1 win away from being the champion. That's an error by Pavlovich.
Chael, that's 2 in a row that have done that, Chael. It happened to Gamrot in last week, And now it's happening in New York City. 2 backup fighters ultimately don't end up being the backup fighter. It's crazy.
Well, it goes back to what Chael said. We do make up our rules on the fly here in mixed martial arts, and that is one of the best things I think about this sport. Thank you guys so much for joining us.
Wait, what are you doing, Brett? What are you doing? Do you have something?
Yeah, what is your
important
big hurry, Brett?
Yeah, what?
I am a busy guy. I'm in Saudi Arabia to cover Francis Ngannou. You guys may have heard of him. He's has a big boxing match this
So
weekend.
you're interviewing Francis.
Going to be interviewing Tyson Fury, actually.
Oh, actually, they let you sit with the champ? Very surprising.
Yep. No, I think he requested me, actually, DC, is what happened.
This is the Globetrotters versus the Lakers. Enjoy yourself, Brett.
All right, Brett.
All right. You guys enjoy your studios at home. I'm going to go in the Saudi arena and interview Tyson Fury. Thank you so much for joining us, and we will look forward to UFC 295.